My presentation is on oats. Oats have been grown for a long time in Ireland, and although the acreage is not what it once was, but the crop and the industry which uses oats still represent a very important component of the Irish tillage sector. The crop offers an alternative to wheat and barley, but in addition to that, it's an effective take-all break. And we know from other work in Teagasc that yields of winter wheat after oats are just as good as yields of winter wheat after more traditional break crops like rape or beans. Now, the oat industry, and particularly that part of it which produces products for human and equine consumption, is very important, as the production of Irish oat products from Irish grown oats reduces the dependency of growers on commodity markets. Now, to support growers, Teagasc has an extensive research programme on oats, and that research programme covers a wide range of subjects including seeding rates, nutrition, disease control, lodging and quality, and the research programme covers both autumn sown and spring sown crops. Now, last year I presented on winter oat agronomy, but this year I'd like to say something on what we're finding about the agronomy of spring oats, and more specifically about the nitrogen nutrition of spring oats. Now, since we use the same spring varieties for autumn sowing as well as spring sowing, what we have is essentially the same variety with a longer growing season or a shorter growing season. The longer growing season having a larger yield potential than the crop with the shorter growing season. But what we're finding from our research is that even though spring and autumn sown crops have different yield potential, actually the response to nitrogen of spring sown crops is very, very similar to that of autumn sown crops. For both autumn and spring sown crops, to optimise yield, you need 120 to 150 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. Now, as regards the timing of that nitrogen fertilisation, what we found is that March sown crops are actually quite flexible in the response to nitrogen timing, as long as the nitrogen is on by growth stage 30. You can split the nitrogen in different ways, but it won't have a huge effect in yield as long as the nitrogen has been applied by growth stage 30. As far as the effects of nitrogen fertilisation on quality is concerned, and more specifically hectolitre weight, well, what we found for autumn sown crops is that there's a strong effect of nitrogen rate on hectolitre weight. As the nitrogen rate is increased, hectolitre weight declines. We found the same effect on spring sown oats. The effect isn't quite as strong as for autumn sown oats, but it's still very evident. For autumn sown crops, we found a strong effect of the way that nitrogen is split on hectolitre weight, favouring a larger proportion of the total nitrogen load being applied earlier in order to maximise hectolitre weight. We found the same effect for spring sown crops. Now, the effect is not nearly as strong as for autumn sown crops, but it's still present. So to conclude, to optimise yield for spring sown oats grown in Index 1 soils between 120 to 150 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare, it's not very important how that nitrogen is split as far as yield is concerned, as long as the nitrogen has been applied by growth stage 30. Hectolitre weight will fall with increasing nitrogen rate and, to a lesser extent, with delayed application.